with something to do on a Saturday. So maybe you're sitting around wanting to get all cozy. I've got a fun project that will smell really good. How about making your own wax melts? Do you have one of these little wax warmers at home already? I got this really beautiful one from one of my coworkers. Thank you, Keith. He gave this to me as a Christmas present. Absolutely love it. You can see I use it quite a bit. I got one of my favorites in there right now, the cookie one. These are relatively cheap. You can pick these up at, I got this one at Walmart for just a couple bucks. It's a nice size. You can even put a little decoration on there. You know, when the library gets back open, we'll do the cricket thing. You can put a little tea light in there and heat them up. So they're really cool, but they can be really expensive. Like I did get these ones at Walmart. They were relatively cheap, but they don't have a really strong fragrance. And this one of my favorites, the milk and cookies, yum. Smells up the whole house, makes it smell like Christmas. Love that. But $6.99, that's expensive. I'm sure this was a gift. I know I didn't pay $6.99 because y'all know I'm too cheap for that, right? So I'm going to show you how to make your own. Okay, and I've got two ways that you can do this. Whichever way you prefer is wonderful. And the other thing that is really cool about this, if you're one of those people that can't use these or haven't used these because maybe you have allergies or you're very sensitive to smell, the really cool thing about making your own is that you can adjust the ingredients that goes in here so that you're not sending yourself into an asthma attack. And if this is the kind of thing that triggers your allergies or triggers sinus, I've even got one that can help you with your sinuses. So I'm going to gather a few things together and we'll get started. So one of the first ways that you can make your own wax melts, and of course one of my favorites is because we are upcycling, recycling, whatever you want to call it. I guess this would be upcycling. Old candles. Okay, you get to a point, and I'm going to pop around so that you can see this. Here I come. If you can see that there, this candle is about out of wick. It's down to the very end, and plus it's seen better days. We've burnt it quite a few times. It's starting to blacken. Some of the casing around it is worn off, so somebody else might throw this away, but I'm not throwing it away. You can actually melt this wax down, and by simply pouring it into one of these really cool molds, or ice cube trays, you can make your own wax melts. And I'll show you how to do that. Basically, you put it in a double broiler and you melt the wax to a liquid. And once it's in a liquid, we're just going to pull our wax pieces out and pour them into these molds and let it set up. So it's a very simple process, and you know, you're not wasting your candles. And the other thing that I like about wax melts as opposed to candles is I have grandbabies, and I still, you know, when people come over, I like the house to, you know, smell good, have a nice fragrance to it. But that open flame, that candle, you know, like birthday candles, you're just kind of attracted to it. And the wax melts, because they're in one of these nice little, you know, where the flame is kind of hidden, or you get, again, this lovely one with the bulb in there where there's no flame. Yes, the hot wax can still be a safety thing, but there's not that flame to kind of draw or attract somebody to grab it. So all we're going to do when we recycle our candle is I'm going to take some cooking spray and I'm going to spray my mold. I'm going to get my pan set up in double broiler style, and we're just going to melt some wax. So I have set up a double boiler system, which is just a pot of water on the bottom with a pot on top that just has my two candle jars in it. I'm going to watch this really closely because, again, I have glass jars in here. I don't want to heat those up too much and have them crack and break. That would be bad. But because they're candle jars, they're going to be used to a little bit of heat. As long as we keep a close eye on them, we should be good. And we're just going to wait for the candles to kind of turn to liquidy consistency. And what I may do, just because I always worry about the glass heating up with that extra amount of heat on there, as it starts to loosen, I may try and just take the whole disc out of the the glass if it'll come loose, and then just let it to continue to melt directly into the pan. So I'm just going to keep a close eye on that. And while that is going on, I'm actually going to get my paraffin wax shredded up so that we're ready to work with that wax when this one comes off the burner. So I've had my candles sitting in the double boiler for a couple minutes, and it's starting to soften around the edge, as you can see. So I'm just going to take a butter knife, and if I actually twist that in there, I can pull this whole chunk right out like that, and you can see the metal pieces at the bottom. That's why you don't ever want to stick this in the microwave to finish it off, because of the metal pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other one out of there very carefully. You can use an oven mitt, or if you can it all and you have the jar grabbers, that works really great. So I'm going to pull this other one out. I'm going to grease my pan, and then I'm going to put those blocks back in so that they melt to a complete liquid state. Okay, so you can see I just kind of put my knife down in there, and now I can just put that right in there and let it continue to melt. And now that there is no metal in either of these jars, I can actually cover them with a sheet of wax paper, put a little bit of water in there, and put them in the microwave for about 15 to 30 seconds at a time, so that the rest of the, and I would also put it on a paper plate, by the way, and again, about 15 to, whoops, should be holding on to that pan while I do this, 15 to 30 seconds at a time will melt the rest of that wax, and then you can actually reuse the jar for something else. And I'm sure I'll have a video coming up of what to do there. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to melt this wax until it becomes complete liquid. And once it is completely liquid, we will be able to pour it into our molds. My wax is becoming more liquid, so I'm at the point now where I can take a knife or probably a fork, and I'm just going to pull those little metal pieces out. And I should have mentioned beforehand, when you put your wax in there and you have these little metal pieces that hold your wick, you want to actually keep your candle in the upside down position, because if you move that around and you have a non-stick pan, it's going to scratch your pan, and you don't want to scratch your pan. I'm going to take my fork and I'm just going to slide over top of that, and it's not quite ready. That one's not quite ready to come out yet. He's still kind of stuck. I guess I'll have to wait for that wax to melt a little more. But I'm just going to take a fork and pull those metal pieces out as the wax continues to melt. You just want to keep moving that around. And if it starts to splatter a little bit, you can go ahead and turn down the heat some if you need to. Go ahead and put this one on its side. Yeah, you can see that I'm just going to go ahead and pull that one out. That still had a pretty long wick on it. Oops, I dropped it in the pan. Don't do that. Okay, so I have a nice liquid bunch of wax now. I'm just going to take a plastic measuring cup, one of my cheap measuring cups that the stuff is now worn off and really isn't useful other than just for a scoop. So if it's, sometimes this can be hard to clean up, and so if I don't feel like trying to clean it up, I can just throw it away. And so you're going to want to try and carefully pour this over top, and this is a poor example of being careful. I really do like my measuring cup that has a better spout on it, but it's kind of hard to clean up. So and you're going to want to fill it not quite all the way full. But again, even if you spill some over the top, because it's going to be such a thin layer, you can kind of just sort of break it off. And I got some weird piece of stuff in there from the candle. I don't know what that is, and my wicks are kind of floating around on the bottom. Some of the charred stuff that I had on there. But I'm going to go ahead and just pour this wax into these molds, and then you can put them in the refrigerator. You can let them sit out at room temperature. You can put them in the freezer. It just kind of depends on how big a hurry you're in to have your wax molds set up. And as you can see, once I got the candles melted down, there was quite a bit of wax. So I decided to just grab one of my ice cube trays and go ahead and fill that, because that'll take quite a bit of this wax. And at this point, I probably could just go ahead and take my pot and just kind of pour it over. But I do have some of the charred bits of the debris from the wick sort of sitting at the bottom, and there's a couple pieces of wick that I haven't fished out yet, which I could have and should have done with a fork, but I didn't. So I'm just kind of trying to avoid those. And then once you're done, whatever you don't use, you just want to treat your unmelted wax kind of like you would grease, or maybe even a little more carefully. You want to pour it into an empty milk container or some kind of can, and wait for it to harden and put it in the garbage. Don't run it down your sink, because of course it will harden back up and then you'll have troubles. Like I said, I don't know if you can you see that? There's little debris in there. Oops, I drop it on the floor. That's not good. And the other thing that you can do too, as I mentioned before, if you're a person who's kind of sensitive to strong smells, and maybe you got a candle that you kind of like, but it's a little too strong, you can always melt your candle down and add some of the paraffin wax to it, and that will work as almost kind of a diluting type of thing that you'll be able to, it will still have scent to it, but it won't be as overwhelming. So I'm kind of getting down to the bottom of this, and there's getting to be some gross stuff in there, so I don't know that I want to go on with it. I may just decide that I am done with this mixture, and I will rinse my pan out and start on the next one. The nice part about it is, especially because this one is so dark, that once this sets up, you really won't be able to see what that is or know what that is. And I wonder if I could drip any more wax on my floor right now. Guess I will be scrubbing my floor later. Actually, the wax will just kind of peel it nicely, but you do want to be careful not to get it everywhere, because it could potentially damage it. Okay, so I'm going to leave that mixture as is. As you noticed, I probably should have mentioned ahead of time, I did put wax paper down here just because I didn't want to get this all over my counter like I did my floor. It makes it for a little easier cleanup. And if you know that you're going to move this someplace else to allow it to set up, like if you're going to put it in the refrigerator or the freezer, or you need to put it someplace else out of the way to let it cool, you'll want to put a pan or something underneath, because you don't want to move this while it's full of hot liquid and trying to set up. So we are going to let those set up. I'm going to get rid of this little bit that I have left. And then we will work with our paraffin wax and make up our own little scent. If you don't have any candles that you're ready to melt down, or maybe you've sadly already thrown them out, the other way that you can do this is with paraffin wax or soy wax. There's back and forth about which is better. At the end of the day, pick your preference. I'm going to tell you right now, I prefer the paraffin wax. And why do I prefer the paraffin wax? Because it's cheaper and it's easier to get. Soy wax, you're going to have to look around, you're going to have to pay a little more money for it, then it doesn't become as economical to make. And this is super easy to get. You can get it at any grocery store, and it's, again, it's relatively cheap. You know, I like cheap. The only thing I like better than cheap is free. Oh, good, I already got one sitting over here. So you pick this up. Walmart has it. It is down with like the Jello in the pudding. I think you can find it at Giant Eagle there too, but under $4. And you get 4 of these little like bars of wax. They're like a big square bar of soap. And all you do is you can do this again one of 2 ways. You can just cut this or break this into pieces and melt it over a double broiler, which I'm gonna do in a minute. Or you can shave it, and that sometimes works easier. And then the really cool part about this that I absolutely love is that you can create your own fragrances. So if you want something to smell like sugar cookies, like I like, both the cookies and the smell, you can throw some vanilla and some cinnamon in there, and it makes a wonderful, you know, sugar cookie type smell. If you're looking for something, you know, more sophisticated, there's all kinds of different essential oils that you can put in there. And here's the really cool one, is that if you use eucalyptus and peppermint in your wax melt, you can actually make a sinus remedy. The eucalyptus helps to clear your sinus passages. So by making a mix of eucalyptus and peppermint oil in with your wax and melting that, you can actually alleviate some sinus congestion that way. So it's a really cool thing to do. Plus it makes a great gift. If you're looking for a nice gift to give to somebody, and especially those people that kind of have everything, that kind of makes a nice gift. There's all kinds of recipes on the internet. Check them out. Basically what it comes down to is melting your wax and putting whatever scent you want in there. Lavenders work nice, but you can put it by your bedside before you go to bed and get some of that lavender going and relax you if you have trouble sleeping. That's a good one, but it's a super simple process. I'm going to show you how to do it. All you need, you can get some ice cube trays, especially if you want to give these as gifts or kind of pick a theme. But of course I have some Disney ones, big surprise there, right? We got some beachy ones, so you know, if you wanted to make something like the tea time, or do some of the rosewood, you know, to kind of get sort of a different feel to it. You can also use food extracts, like I said. So if you wanted to put some like coconut oil or flavoring in there with some vanilla, you could, you know, that would make a nice one for these little beachy ones. And I do feel like, as much as I love Mickey and I love Disney, the silicone ones do work better because they're flexible and you can pop them in and out. Sometimes you have to do a little shaving depending on how well that you pour your wax in. I really like these. If you're just gonna kind of keep these at home and use them for yourself and you really don't care how they look, these are nice because they have the hard sides to them, but they have the squishy bottoms, so they're kind of easy to push and pop them out, and those work really, really nice. And if you want to have some fun, like this one is a poop emoji, good for, you know, like a little April Fool's joke, you know, oh, I got something that, you know, smells, but don't actually make it smell like that, that'd be gross. But you can find these molds at Joann Fabrics. Has a huge selection of different molds, and you can usually always find a 50% off coupon somewhere, or even the Dollar Tree has some silicone molds with some really cool designs. So we're gonna head on over to the stove. We're gonna melt some wax and get it set up to make some wax melts. I have my bar of paraffin wax. I just have my regular, household grater, and actually it's a nice little Pyrex system. You can use any kind of grater, even the Dollar Tree has graters. I'm gonna put that right over top of my bowl, and I'm just gonna run my wax right across here. You kind of got to push on it a little bit. And it's is just going to shred that just like a really hard piece of cheese. It's kind of sliding all over the place, but I'm kind of at a weird angle because of where the camera's at. But I'm just going to slide that right across your grater, and you can use the wider side of it. Get in there. And it's just going to look like, you know, pretty little snowflakes almost. But that will melt up really, really nicely. And whatever you decide to scent your wax melt with, that if you use essential oils, or if you're going to use a type of liquid cooking flavoring, both of those will mix very nicely in with this. So I'm just going to continue to shred my little wax block, and again we will have small pieces of the wax, the paraffin wax, available for you in the vestibule to pick up and make your own wax melts. So I have shredded my wax. It's nice little snow looking stuff, and I've sprayed my pan with some non-stick spray. I'm just going to pour my shaved wax in here, and again you could break it up into cubes and it'll be okay. I just think it's easier to kind of get it all mixed and melt evenly. If you are going to do a food scented one, like some cinnamon, some nutmeg, vanilla, those are all really great things to put in there. Anise oil is another one that will give you a nice scent, nice foodie. You can even put lemon, that'll give you. If you're working just strictly with food, things that you would cook with, you can go ahead and put those in while you're melting your wax if you so desire. Unless you're using you know, powdered cinnamon or powdered nutmeg, I recommend that you do melt your wax first before you put those in. But any of your food items you can go ahead and heat up in the pan with this. If you're using essential oil, I don't recommend that you do that because some essential oils are flammable and you don't want to run that risk. We're just going to go ahead and melt that wax and then add our essential oil after we remove it from the heat, just to be on the safe side. So I'm going to get my shavings to a liquid form, and then we are going to add our essential oil. We have melted our paraffin wax. It is a nice liquid now, and I'm just now trying to get the childproof caps off of the essential oil. Oh, I need to find a child to do this for me. I go the wrong way. No. And I am going to now take my essential oils, and this is going to be the one that's for sinus relief, and they recommend using eucalyptus, which of course you hear that in like the Halls commercials, and it's in the Vicks Vapo Rub. And depending on which recipe you look at and you know what your preference is, the one said to put about 100 drops, so you know, count 100. So I don't know how much, but when I can kind of start to really, of course I got to move this over here because I can also smell the peppermint that's going in here next. So some say a couple teaspoons, some say a few, you know, a few drops, some say a lot of drops, some say an ounce, some say half an ounce. I really think that you know, you just have to adjust it to what you feel your needs are. So the first couple times will be kind of experimental. That kind of stinks a little bit. And then we're going to put some peppermint in here. And I can already feel that kind of clearing up my nose a little bit. So then once we get both of the oils in there, I'm going to just switch that around a little bit. And I did try and put some food coloring in here, and I've had it work sometimes and I've had it not work sometimes. And I think part of it depends on the temperature of your food coloring when you put it in, and you really should put it in at the very beginning, and this time I didn't, so I've got just some weird bubbles in there and whatever. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the other one. I have my liquid. I'm just going to pour it right into my molds. I'm actually going to move this one over here for a minute, and I'm just going to, I didn't spray that yet, but I'm going to pour that clear liquid in, and we're going to let it sit. Oh, geez. Making a mess. Making a mess. So I'm just going to take my clear liquid, scoop that up, and pour it right into these molds, like I did the other ones. And if you wanted to get really fancy, depending on your sense, one of the sugar cookie ones that I buy actually has cute little sprinkles in it. And I've seen them with like little bits of colored sugar or the non-perils. You know, it kind of makes it a fancier, pretty little thing, especially if you're gonna bag them up and give them as a gift. And they make nice gifts, especially around the holidays, or you know, with Mother's Day coming up. What a cool thing to not only be able to give, you know, mom something useful, but also something that you made yourself. Especially, you know, hopefully y'all know what your mom likes, and you can make something that she'll really enjoy. You know, if she has a favorite flower, you can, you know, if you can find that fragrance. And you can see that I messed around a little bit too much. This paraffin wax sets up very quickly, so I'm probably at the tail end of this of making, ooh, I'm making a mess now. Oh, there's the big blob of green food coloring, if you caught that. So now I'm just going to be able to let these set up, and obviously they're going to set up relatively quickly. So the other thing that I will mention about cleanup is that if you can, use a pan that you're not going to use for food. If you melt down the regular candles, or if you're putting essential oils into your wax melts. But what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of cold water in here. That'll help harden up the wax even quicker. And I will take a pan scraper, let me grab that and show that to you. I have this pan scraper here, and I will take the pan scraper and just kind of scrape that wax. You can see it scrapes right up. And once I get most of the wax off, and again, I'm going to put some cold water in there so that really hardens up. Once I get that hardened up, then I can take some hot water and wash the rest of it off. You want to make sure that you get as much of this off and put it into some sort of cup or container. As I said before, treat it as though you would like grease. Don't put it down your drain, because this will cause problems. So I'm going to clean my pan, and then we'll see how our mold's set up. Once our wax melts have cooled in the mold, we can go ahead and pop them out. And you're going to go ahead and just gently push on them so that they just kind of fall out. Like I said, these silicone ones work really, really nicely. And you can see even where I it's a little slimy at this point. The places where I overfilled it, they just kind of break off. And I'm going to pop around here so that you can see these, even though I've got the oil kind of all over my hands from the cooking spray. And what you'll want to do is, because they're still kind of oily, is you'll just lay these out on wax paper or foil or whatever, and just kind of allow them to air dry the rest of the way. But they pop out very nicely, and you'll see why I like these, because I can simply pop the button. I don't even have to flip them over, but just pop the button and they will pop right out, and you have these nice little discs. They look almost like a yummy little Rolo. Your ice trays, I did want to let this sit just a little longer, but you'll kind of do the same way that you would get an ice cube out, kind of flex it one way and flex it the other, and they will pop out, and you'll have these nice little squares ready to go. So it's just that simple. Whether you're upcycling an old candle, or whether you want to start with some scratch with some paraffin wax and whatever tasty things you have in your cupboard, or if you want to work with some essential oils that are relatively easy to get, or maybe you already have some of those at home. But it's a fun way to kind of put your own personal spin on wax melts. They make great gifts, and it's way more economical to make your own than it is to buy them in the store. And As I said, you can make them as strongly scented or as lightly scented as you want, as well as making your own personal scent to it. So let me know how you did. Make a comment in the comment section if you tried it and it worked well, or what didn't work. And make sure that you like, comment, and share this video so that your friends can become our friends, because we always want more friends. So I hope you enjoyed this today. Join me next Saturday, because I'll have something else for you to do on Saturday. And stay safe, stay well, and I will see you real soon.